Coming up next on Headline Humboldt, we sit down with producer-director Randall Nickerson to talk about his new film, The Ariel Phenomenon. After 15 years of work and research, he's unveiled his exploration of this strange African event. Also, just a few days shy of election night, the Humboldt County Grand Jury issued a report that lays the blame for the county's financial filing woes at the feet of Auditor-Controller Karen Paz Dominguez. Coming up now on Headline Humboldt. Live from the top of Humboldt Hill. Thanks for joining us. We've now interviewed a long list of candidates and covered what we believe to be the most hotly contested races this election season. All these weeks later, the onus is now on you, the voters, to decide how you'll pull the lever this next Tuesday and why. Even now, campaigns are shifting into overdrive, pushing their agenda behind the scenes, emailing reporters with story suggestions that too often don't pass the smell test, tirelessly working however they can to hurt or hinder their opponents just enough to secure victory. This year, the DA's race by far takes the cake for the dirtiest campaign. Passions are flaring between Kamada and Eads, and there's been several back-and-forth whisper campaigns launched to bait journalists and generate lurid headlines. For the most part, local journalists have resisted the temptation with some notable exceptions, and I commend them for that. It's so easy to splash a few choice words across a masthead or website while the complexities of these issues get neglected or ignored in the rush for readership. And while the DA's race has been the most personal, it's hard to top the Auditor-Controller's race for sheer drama. In fact, with just a few days remaining until votes are cast, a critical filing from the Humboldt County Grand Jury seems to lay the blame for the county's financial filing woes at the feet of Karen Paz Dominguez. We'll have that story and comments from Paz Dominguez in response later on in our show. But this week, we've decided to cleanse the news palette by starting off our show with a fascinating interview that will stretch the bounds of what we think is possible. And so, the interview. We're here with Randall Nickerson, the director of The Ariel Phenomenon, which is an outstanding and fascinating film about an event that happened in Zimbabwe in 1994. I'll let him tell the story, but I've seen the film and I was absolutely gobsmacked by it. So Randall, first, why don't you describe who you are and what The Ariel Phenomenon is about?
Hi, thanks for having me on.
No problem.
I directed and produced the film, and I'm from a small town in Massachusetts. I got curious about this particular case that happened in Africa, and it was these children in a schoolyard in Zimbabwe who reported seeing a silver disc-shaped craft land in there and back of the playground. They also viewed these what they call them all kinds of different things, but basically creatures that they had never seen before that approached the playground. So there was this incident at the school, but there was also other incidents, seen by adults in the area as well. That's the story. And what I did was collect all the archival, because these children were interviewed by the BBC, by SABC, ZBC, and then Dr. John Mack from Harvard University, a well-trained psychiatrist, interviewed them also. So my role was to find the kids today, because this happened in 1994, and I found a lot of the children that were at that witness, and also adults that were witnesses, and interviewed them today to see how they felt. Did they still believe what they said they saw when they were children? And amazingly found that their stories hadn't changed at all, and they never stopped thinking about that day.
Yeah. You mentioned before the interview started that you've been working on this for 14 and a half years, is that right?
That's correct.
I mean, that obviously, I think, qualifies as a passion project. What about this particular incident? I mean, we hear a lot of stories about what people have sightings, and especially recently as the military has begun to, implement changes to their reporting structure so that such things aren't scoffed at as much anymore. And the overall paradigm around UAP or UFOs is changing. But what about this particular event struck you so resonantly that made you, set aside a stretch of your life to explore it such?
The nature of the incident, and then the time it really took to locate a lot of these people around the world. And over time, over years, I mean, every year I'd get some new footage that I knew nothing about of these children being interviewed or somebody else being interviewed. And it added more to the story. It gave it more, even more credibility. And that happened. It's even still today, I have witnesses contacting me. Wow. So in a way, I mean, it was a struggle to fund it. And also to really do an effective and thorough job on understanding what happened and telling that story. I mean, I could have probably put it out in 3 years, but this story had so many, you've got a BBC war reporter, you've got a Harvard psychiatrist, and all kinds of other characters, including small children who were involved in the story, which kept me going because I knew for a long time, like, this is a very unique story because of how it played out and how it still exists today with a lot of the people that saw it.
Yeah. One of the fascinating elements to me is that this is a story that goes further than most UFO sighting reports. I mean, these kids interacted with some sort of entity. They all gave very similar descriptions, which is in the movie, and you have a lot of artwork from those kids as they, drew out what they had seen. They also reported somehow some sort of communication that had occurred, perhaps, telepathic or some sort of images that they seemed to receive. And it's something that would normally and does sort of tax our ability to kind of accept it as reality. It's challenging. It's definitely a challenging thing. But the fact that you have all of these people, like John Mack, who is Harvard trained and, obviously the top of his field, and then, like you mentioned, the BBC reporter, it forces us to confront the fact that this really happened. One of the main points that I really, found striking was John Mack talking about how these kids, whatever they saw, they are reacting from something. Something happened to them that they accepted as real, and whether or not we can fit it into our paradigm is sort of beside the point. Did you find reluctance from these witnesses as you approach them, now 30 years later or whatever it is, to talk about it? Or were they wanting to, were they waiting for this opportunity to sort of redigest and kind of come forward with the story?
It varied quite a bit, but I would say the majority were hesitant, because of the stigma around this whole phenomenon worldwide, but particularly in the West, it's more so. There were many people I sat with, and they told me the story, but they just did not want to go on camera and have their, what their concerns of having their lives disrupted, or families or people talking about them, getting ridicule. That was common. So a lot of people, which I do hope they come forward in time to tell their story, because they have things to add that are important. Going back to your last question, one of the reasons it took so long to make this was because I wanted to, everybody in the film is first person. It's not secondhand stories. It's all the real people telling the story without a narrator, because I didn't want to interject into what they could tell, themselves. But what took a lot. That's one of the hardest type of documentaries to make, because it has to be told by the people, through archival or through their own words in the present day. So that was also a big reason why it took so long.
So now the one person that you focused in on heavily in the film is Emily Trim, and she has a very interesting arc of development throughout the story, and also through what seems like the course of her life as she tries to come to grips with what happened to her, and also how her family handled it. Did you find that story sort of common, or were most people sort of able to process it, better, I guess?
I think it was very dependent on how it was received in the family.
Sure.
And I think this is common, not just with this particular incident, but all kinds of incidents around the world of this nature, where it depends on. It's tough when you see something and the people you love the most don't believe you.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing to deal with. So the parents have a big impact, and friends. But I did see a lot of that. Emily, such a brave woman.
Yeah.
I mean, to do that and step out and let me document her journey. I owe her a lot in that respect. And all the kids actually that came forward, they didn't have to.
Yeah.
But they felt like that this was something significant, and nobody has really talked about it. Not really. It was in 1994, 95. It was, it sort of made its little appearance on sightings and different shows, and then it sort of disappeared until I picked it up in 07.
Yeah. It seems like people don't know how to process it, so they kind of just want to ignore it.
It's hard to wrap your head around this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I went in thinking, well, it looks authentic. And then, I was looking for those people that, had another explanation. That I went down that road. You have to. That's your job.
Yeah.
And the more I talked to people, the more I just kept shaking my hand. You got to be kidding me. There's more, more documented, more archival interviews, and it's the same story, from different perspectives. And it was just kind of mind-blowing, to be honest.
I bet. Even from the viewer's perspective, it was mind-blowing. One of the things that struck me is that these kids are very articulate, eloquent, well-spoken children in the archival interviews. I wonder if you've noticed anything about them as they've gotten older that you would say sort of binds them together, that somehow maybe this incident changed them in a way that you can find a through line among the witnesses. Would you say that's the case? Is there anything like that?
I would say that, actually. I think one of the parents I interviewed, he said, I asked him, what did it do to your children? How do you see it manifesting in your children now? And he said that after they had seen that thing, that craft and those creatures, that anything was possible. And you'll find with a lot of these students, they're all successful, very, quite amazing, actually, set of students that went on to do and are doing good things in the world.
Yeah. This is not obviously occurring in a vacuum. We are in the middle of this sort of revolution in thinking about the UAP topic and what's more broadly referred to as, I guess, the phenomenon. That there's something's going on. The government may or may not know something more about it and has sort of been inching forward toward, whether you want to call it a soft disclosure or I don't know what to call it. But do you think that you waited 14 years to work on this film, and the timing has sort of come around to you, it seems like. Do you think that the period that we're living in is helping with, your film project and getting it the attention it deserves?
I do, but I had nothing to do with that.
Well,
it's
sure,
just
yeah.
serendipity, I don't know what you call it. I was shocked to find out the Senate Intelligence Committee was meeting about this.
Yeah.
The timing was pretty I couldn't believe it. But I think, I think we're at a time in our history where we have a potential, war going out of control, and we have serious climate change that's right in our face. That we need to start talking about something that's probably been kept quiet from us for a long time. But I think we need to start talking about that. So we, as a planet, we get together, and come together and understand that it's not just us out here. That's my personal, and that comes from talking to so many people, including Air Force people and Navy people.
Yeah.
Some of these people that were part of that committee.
That's one thing I was going to ask you about, is after having talked to the kids especially, do you think that there was some message that you could draw from their collective testimony that you think that the others, as one of the kids mentioned them, were trying to communicate?
Yes.
Do you know what that is?
There were witnesses who told me in person the very same thing, but they don't want to go on camera to talk about it.
Wow.
So that I don't know how widely amongst all the children that occurred to, but enough to, and I found particularly the males were the most hesitant to want to talk about that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Now, you have had, I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, that you are an experiencer yourself?
I definitely saw something that opened my eyes to the fact that something wasn't included in my education about things that are out there. No, I don't want to go into it because I really, this is their story. I feel like I treated it objectively, and I built trust with them. It was hard to get people like that to trust you.
Sure.
To share those. It's personal for everybody that it happens to, and it happens to people all around the world in every country. And nobody's really dealing with it. It's been sort of on the fringe for a long time, and it's not. We're seeing that maybe it's not so fringe. That it's just something we can't really wrap our heads around and comprehend.
Yeah. You mentioned that maybe it's not so fringe. John Mack paid a price as a Harvard professor for taking this topic seriously. I mean, he was investigated famously, and he was ultimately, I guess, exonerated of wrongdoing. But maybe the times have changed. We now have Abby Loeb, who is from Harvard and also taking the phenomena seriously and trying to study the subject. What lessons do you think academics in particular could learn from the story of John Mack as they approach not only this topic, but other topics that maybe mainstream science and society has kind of thought for a long time were a waste of time or beyond the ken of material science? What do you think people should draw from his story?
I think that one of the biggest is that, and John Mack, Dr. John Mack was a very, lauded, brilliant man who won the Pulitzer Prize and had written many books in psychology and psychiatry. And he says it in the film himself. It was like, well, what should I have done? Should I have just gone on and sort of diagnosed this as some kind of mental illness that we don't even understand? Or do I go and be honest with my clinical experience of what this is? And that was what drove him was this. These people were talking about something so strange, but it had all the marks of authentic experience.
Yeah.
So I think in the long run, it happens throughout history. People think ideas are crazy until, decades later it's normal. And I think the lesson, I don't know, or people can learn from somebody like John Mack is keep an open mind and realize that we are where we are right now, but, you know, I doubt anybody thought we'd all have computers in our pockets, 40 years ago.
Yeah. One comparison I've often heard is the idea that the Earth was the center of the solar system was often considered to be, sacrilegious, and then once we, cemented that fact, it very quickly became something that we just took for granted, and maybe that's the process we're undergoing now with this UAP stuff. I have to ask, you've spent significant time studying this and talking to people who've had very intimate experiences. What do you believe it is?
I believe, to be straight and honest, I believe we're dealing with a species that is not from this planet. And, the statistics prove it out. There's definitely life out there. We know that.
Yeah.
And, we think that we're going to find it. But it's pretty highly likely if something has been evolving billions of years ahead of us that they're going to find us. And we're probably not going to recognize it very easily.
Absolutely. If someone wants to watch your film, what's the best way for them to do that?
Right now it's at Ariel, ARIEL, arielphenomenon.com.
Okay.
And then pretty soon we'll be on VOD. And we're still working on that. We kind of did a soft launch, and we'll be doing theaters pretty soon in the major cities. And it's just the beginning, just the start of it, really.
We have about 45 seconds left. How has the reaction been from folks so far?
Beyond my expectation. I knew it was, when you put that kind of work and you have talented people like Christopher Seward and Rebecca Rideout, Rick DeGrees on my team, and other people on my team, the response has been amazing. And people really see the work we did and the story we were passionate to tell in a straight and honest way.
It's been a privilege and a pleasure to have you on the show, sir. Thank you for taking the time out.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep. Talk to you soon. We'll be right back after this short break.
On Studio Space, Marceau Verdier's unique work is imbued with layers of saturated pigment. Learn more about his inspiration. Emily Silver walks the landscape collecting mud and earths to incorporate into her paintings. Studio Space explores Northern California's vibrant art community.
A new report by the Humboldt County Grand Jury states that missteps by incumbent Auditor-Controller Karen Paz Dominguez have cost the county more than $2.3 million and put an additional $9.7 million at risk. According to the report, even more money in the hundreds of thousands of dollars was spent paying off late fees and penalties or has ended up as lost interest earnings. It also states that there exists a contentious relationship between the Auditor-Controller and the Board of Supervisors, as well as the County Administrative Office and others. Some of the department's inefficiencies predate Paz Dominguez, and the jury does credit her with making some improvements to the overall auditing process. But the grand jury points out that late filing issues have resulted in disrupted services to both Humboldt County and Special District residents. And this ultimately prompted the State Controller's Office to investigate and the State Attorney General to file suit. Any improvements made by Paz Dominguez were hampered due to the Auditor-Controller making changes without giving notice or consulting consulting with other county departments. The report also aimed some criticism at the Board of Supervisors because it did not exercise its authority in a timely manner to promote a healthy and functional county work environment. At a press conference held today, Paz Dominguez took issue with parts of the grand jury's report, and in a written response, she questioned the dollar amounts cited. Quote, "What funds have been lost? How much? By whom? Where is the evidence of this beyond hearsay? The burden of proof that funds have been lost rests on the complainants making the claim and the grand jury repeating it." She also said the report is, quote, "merely a regurgitation of repeated claims made by county department heads and their staff, of which there has been little to no evidence." A new legislative effort headed up by State Senator Mike McGuire seeks to help the California Department of Forestry be better prepared for what so far promises to be an historically hellish fire season. An ongoing shortage of firefighting personnel, among other issues, has plagued the department and needs to be addressed, McGuire said.
Our state is facing unprecedented destructive wildfires. Fixing the CAL FIRE firefighter shortage will help make sure we can fight these wildfires and protect communities and protect our environment. We're here to be able to propose a modern-day staffing plan for CAL FIRE that will include the following 3 pillars. Number 1, we believe we need to immediately hire 1,124 CAL FIRE firefighters. So let's break this down. We're proposing to hire 356 new full-time firefighters to get full staffing on its fire engines. 3 firefighters on an engine would become a new mandated minimum in the state of California with this bipartisan legislation. Number 2, in the pillar, we're also advancing a mandated minimum for firefighting hand crews. Most immediate, this legislation would mandate 16 additional hand crews of 48 firefighters each to provide on-the-ground support during fire season be hired immediately. Their job is to proactively move on defensible space and fire prevention projects and to protect vulnerable communities. Number 3, this legislation would mandate a modern-day staffing plan for CAL FIRE, and it's about damn time. This staffing plan will ensure that the agency can meet the staffing and infrastructure needs in this new mega fire reality that we all live in. The completion of this study would be delivered to the legislature and to the governor no later than 12 months after the bill is signed.
Dr. Candy Stockton was named Humboldt County's newest public health officer following confirmation by the Board of Supervisors last week. Stockton is a 4th-generation Humboldt County native and received her medical degree from Loma Linda University School of Medicine. She is board certified in family and addiction medicine. Quote, "Having spent years practicing medicine in rural Northern California has given me a deep understanding of the challenges inherent in medicine and community health in rural and isolated areas," she said. As an expert on addiction and childhood trauma, Stockton was featured in KEET's award-winning 2020 documentary Addicts Among Us. Stockton remains involved in advancing the treatment of substance use disorders with a focus on pregnant women and parents statewide. She is also a trainer and consultant for the National Opioid Response Network. She starts in July. That's all our time for this week. I'd like to encourage our viewers to check out our podcast. It's up on Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts, and Crossing the Bar is what it's called, and it talks about tradition and history and commerce and how that's evolving and growing into the future and how that's likely to change. It's with historian Jerry Rohde. Please check it out. Stay tuned, stay informed.